Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody.
Hillary Clinton wants to abolish it, believe me. She wants to abolish our Second Amendment.
I think they didn't deny it. I don't think anybody denied it.
Other presidents did not call. They'd write letters, and some presidents didn't do anything.
Many people have come out and said I'm right.
You really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop?
Vote. Go and vote. Vote now. If you haven't voted yet, go and vote. Stop listening to this immediately and go out and vote.
Go and vote.
I know that's not how we normally start the show.
But we have to now.
Yeah.
It's
every
conversation should start with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Every news report, every conversation that you have, every phone call. Who does phone calls anymore? Every Zoom call, everything, every interaction you have
text,
with another person
WhatsApp,
should start
Telegram, just
at
put
the
vote.
moment with checking whether they voted, and if they haven't voted, telling them to go and vote. Then you can get on with the stuff that you were going to talk about.
Yeah, even if the stuff you were going to talk about was voting.
Yeah, especially.
Yeah, yeah. So before you even start about voting, talk about voting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
So hello and welcome to Fallacious Trump, the podcast where we use the insane ramblings of an erratically bronzed demagogue to explain logical fallacies. I'm your host, Jim.
And I'm your other host, Mark. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning that results in bad or invalid arguments. And the logical fallacy we're looking at this week is glittering generalities.
This is from the mid-19th century, the phrase glittering generalities. And it was, if not originated, then probably popularised by a Whig senator from Massachusetts called Rufus Choate,
right,
who wrote a public letter, to the main Whig committee. And he was saying that the anti-slavery Whigs were so caught up in the Declaration of Independence's glittering and sound generalities,
right,
that they would destroy the Union by being their anti-slavery selves, who thought that, men being created equal was a thing and all that nonsense.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
So that was kind of the main, the oldest big use of the term glittering generalities.
Yeah.
And slightly more recent, not very much more recent, 1859, Abraham Lincoln used the term defending Thomas Jefferson being accused of using glittering generalities in kind of his abstract ideals of how America should be, and Lincoln was defending him in a letter saying that basically these aren't glittering generalities, these are not mere rhetoric but definitions and axioms of free society.
Nice. So, there you go. Yep.
So glittering generalities are when people use vague, positive sounding phrases or buzzwords without detail of how those things are actually going to go about or what they even mean, in the place of kind of reason or
actual policy.
Actual policies.
Yeah.
And I think that fits with a thing you've probably heard Trump say more than anything else. Not fake news.
Right.
But this.
We want to make America great again. It's very simple. We want to make America great again, and that's what we're going to do.
It is very simple to say, but it's not very simple. If you sat him down and went, right, how are you going to do that? And when was it great? And why isn't it great now?
Yeah, not just how are you going to do it, but what does it mean? What does great mean?
Yeah.
Great for who?
Yeah.
People like him really is the answer, sadly.
But,
yes. Yeah, and absolutely, when was it great? And again, to answer that question, like, who are you talking about? Who was it great for is really fucking important. When you're asking that question, because it has not been great for everyone in the past. There have been times when it has been less than great for quite a large proportion of society.
Number of people,
and
because of their race, creed,
various
gender,
things,
various things. The fact that they weren't white land-owning men.
Yeah, and it's that group of people for whom nostalgia gives them the opportunity to claim it was great, and we should get back to that, because now that everyone gets to own land and vote and shit like that, it's not as great, because they're not privileged anymore. That privilege has been taken away by giving it to everyone.
Yeah, so it is a generality in that it's glittering because they're going for great.
Yeah.
And the general bit, we go, yes, we are going to make that happen. We're going to make it It's like the one I can talk about it because I'm not going to talk about it in my bit. when the whole Brexit thing was take back control.
Yeah,
you go, okay, yeah, we're going to get something back. That's the idea is, and it's kind of underlies "Make America Great Again" as well. Is the implication that somebody has taken something away from you? The greatness of America has been removed from your grasp, and control has been taken away from you by the EU in this case, which was what underlying the Brexit thing, and they're positioning themselves to be the people who are going to deliver it back. But the same thing applies when you say, okay, who's the people taking back the control and what are they taking back control of?
Yeah.
And again, it's the, white, male, privileged, public school educated, rich men who are interested in taking back control. And if the control is taken back, then they can guard that privilege and make it great again.
Yeah.
They can make it how it was before. They can be in control. Other people were taking control away. But they generalize it to it's affecting all of you.
Yeah. But you don't need to argue any of that nuance. Any of that
No.
pesky, complicated nuance that gets you into trouble.
Pesky
When you
stuff.
can just...
that damn pesky nuance.
Yeah,
If
when
it
you
wasn't
can
for
just bring
your
up
pesky nuance.
really vague words with positive connotations. Because everyone loves control. Everyone loves having control. They don't love being controlled, but they love having control over their own stuff, don't they? And they love things being great.
Yeah.
Who could argue with things being great? No one's going to argue against that, are they? You'd be crazy to.
Nope.
So if you just boil it down to something that sounds good, generally, without any detail at all.
And put yourself up as the person that's going to bring that about.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And sometimes the good positive connotations can be in response to negative connotations on the other side that you can argue about that are equally vague and unresolved and undefined in a case like this.
We are a nation in serious decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, lost its willpower, and lost its strength. We are a nation that has lost, quite simply, its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. Soon be. With our leadership, every disaster Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have created can be fixed and be quick, very quickly. We're going to do it so quickly. Remember, I used to tell the story, we're going to win, 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 right? We're going to win so much, you're going to get tired of winning. We're going to win. We're going to start winning. Please, please, Mr. President, we're winning too much. We can't take it anymore. We're going to win, win, win.
Yeah, this was one of the first things that he argued was that America doesn't win anymore. And we're going to win so much you'll be tired of winning. And at no point did he make any attempt to define what that means.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean that America doesn't win, and what will winning mean? It's just a generally positive thing. Everyone thinks winning is better than losing. So say we're going to win is good.
Particularly if you preface the whole thing with failing.
Yeah.
We're failing. We're not winning. We're losing.
Yeah.
Everybody's losing their confidence. They're losing this.
So, all of the negative things are similarly vague because, what does it mean that the country has lost its confidence?
Yeah.
The USA's confidence. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
And its strength and its willpower.
Yep.
It's meaningless. But losing those things is bad. They're obviously bad because strength is a good thing, willpower is a good thing, confidence is a good thing. So if we've lost them, bad things. And similarly, all of Biden's disasters, again, completely undefined.
Yeah.
But disasters are a bad thing. So, we're going to fix them because fixing is good.
Yeah, we're going to fix all these broken things. All of the, yes, exactly. We're going to fix them all, even though some of them, like they were going to fix Obamacare.
Yeah.
Because that was a bad thing because Obama came up with it.
We've got a T-shirt in our merch store at fallacioustrump.com/merch, I think it is, which is relevant to this episode, I realise now, but I hadn't thought about this, and it's been in there for years, that is pro-good things, anti-bad things. That's what the T-shirt says. And that's basically this fallacy.
Yeah. Yes, we're all pro-good things and we're all anti-bad things. Yeah.
Hard to argue with, isn't it, really?
but it's a bit more nuanced than that. Okay, what do you call good things, and what do you call bad things? Yeah. Destruction of people's rights. Yeah, might be a good thing for some people. For the people who want those people not to have any rights, so that I get more rights, then they think that's a good thing. But it's not a good thing.
Bad thing. Well, here's some of the things that Trump thinks are bad things.
There are powerful forces in Washington trying to sabotage our movement. These are bad people. These are very, very bad and evil people. They know who they are. These are the people who made their money, their names, their careers, their power off the corrupt and broken system, and they liked it the other way. So they will do anything at any time, and they'll never stop. But you know what? We're stopping them. You're seeing that right now. You're seeing that right now. We're stopping them.
Could he be any more vague? They're powerful
It's almost
bad
went
people.
into a martini advert there, didn't it? Any place, any time, anywhere.
There are bad
people.
They know who they are. They'll do anything.
I haven't got to point them out.
They'll do anything, but we're stopping them
Yeah.
doing the anything that they will do. No detail of who they are or what they're doing or why it's bad or how they're stopping them. Yeah. But you're seeing it. You're seeing it being stopped right in front of your eyes.
Seeing it right now. He didn't say this when the Black Lives Matter people were being violently suppressed whilst he crossed the road to hold a Bible upside down. It wasn't contemporary with that.
It wasn't while he stood outside the church, no.
Right. Because he defines a lot of things as bad.
Yeah.
And clearly they're not. Like peaceful protest, not bad. If you disagree with it, you just disagree with it. It doesn't make it bad.
No, it's evil.
And it doesn't make your disagreement with it good.
It's evil, and evil is bad, so therefore
evil,
you should disagree with them.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, by definition, evil is bad. Fair enough. Yeah. What am I thinking?
I don't know what you're thinking.
And now is the time, I think, for Mark's British politics corner.
Well, I was thinking where better to look for glittering generalities than the sunlit uplands of our Prime Minister's first speeches as Prime Minister over the last nearly 50 years. So it's just one example. There are many PMs and many years. So we're doing 3 chunks because it's too depressing otherwise. What was very interesting doing this exercise was to listen out for the common themes and metaphors, but also to revel in the warm, smug glory that is hindsight, because it somehow makes it possible to get over the trauma of the fact that we lived through all of these clowns. We're going to do it in reverse order. So the first chunk of our 3 chunks is Keir Starmer in 2024, Rishi Sunak in 2022, and Liz Truss in 2022, who all kind of attribute the resilience and determination of the nation to the people of the nation themselves, which makes you also realise that we've managed to do all that we've managed to do in spite of their actions as leader rather than as a result of them. And they're also quite fond of nautical references as well.
Yet, if I'm honest, service is merely a precondition of hope. And it is surely clear to everyone that our country needs a bigger reset, a rediscovery of who we are. Because no matter how fierce the storms of history, one of the great strengths of this nation has always been our ability to navigate a way to calmer waters, that we will rebuild Britain with wealth created in every community, our NHS back on its feet facing the future, secure borders, safer streets, everyone treated with dignity and respect at work.
I will deliver a stronger NHS, better schools, safer streets, control of our borders, protecting our environment, supporting our armed forces, levelling up and building an economy that embraces the opportunities of Brexit, where businesses invest, innovate and create jobs.
By delivering on the economy, on energy and on the NHS, we will put our nation on the path to long-term success. We shouldn't be daunted by the challenges we face. As strong as the storm may be, I know that the British people are stronger. Our country was built by people who get things done. We have huge reserves of talent, of energy and determination. I am confident that together we can ride out the storm. We can rebuild our economy, and we can become the modern, brilliant Britain that I know we can be.
Bit of a tautology there at the end.
Yeah,
we can become the thing I know that we can be.
Absolutely.
But it's all about rebuilding, and with promises of growth of economy where money will be coming out of our ears.
Yeah, weathering storms, lots of storms. It was a very stormy period,
storms.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, God, it was. And realising the potential of Brexit and levelling up, you know, and up is good. Up is a good word.
Yeah.
Heading for calmer waters. We're going to weather the storm because we've got resilience and all that kind of stuff. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah. Also, the country was built by people who got things done. It's literally not possible for a country to be built by anyone other than people who got things done.
Got things done, yeah.
If the people
country
didn't
was built
get
by people who
things
just
done.
sat about waiting for Godot. Yeah. So okay, so we're moving back in time. Here's chunk 2. This is Boris Johnson in December 2019 and July 2019. Yes, there were 2 elections that year. Theresa May in 2016 and David Cameron in 2015 and 2010 when he was joint head of the coalition government with Nick Clegg.
And in the next few weeks and months, we will be bringing forward proposals to transform this country with better infrastructure, better education, better technology. And if you ask yourselves, what is this new government going to do? What is he going to do with his extraordinary majority? I will tell you that is what we are going to do. We are going to unite and level up, unleashing the potential of the whole country. And we will do a new deal, a better deal that will maximise the opportunities of Brexit while allowing us to develop a new and exciting partnership with the rest of Europe based on free trade and mutual support. I have every confidence that in 99 days' time we will have cracked it.
As we leave the European Union, we will forge a bold, new, positive role for ourselves in the world, and we will make Britain a country that works not for a privileged few, but for every one of us. That will be the mission of the government I lead, and together we will build a better Britain.
This is a country with unrivaled skills and creativeness, a country with such good humour and such great compassion. And I'm convinced that if we draw on all of this, then we can take these islands with our proud history and build an even prouder future. Together, we can make Great Britain greater still. And I want to help try and build a more responsible society here in Britain. One where we don't just ask, what are my entitlements, but what are my responsibilities? One we don't ask what am I just owed, but more, what can I give? And a guide for that society that those who can should, and those who can't, we will always help.
So there we have building a better Britain and unleashing the potential of the nation. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
Build a better Britain.
Yeah, it's weird. They never say we're going to make everything worse, do they?
No. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because they all did. Yeah, not least because there was an election in 2019 and 2 in 2022, 2 in 2019. So it is quite good going backwards. And notice also that Boris's speech is a lot about himself, as you'd expect, because of his extraordinary majority. It was only 80 seats. Starmer got 157. Also, Cameron, the word is creativity, not creativeness. Eton and Cambridge education. But you got to admire his creativeness when he channeled JFK's ask not what America can do for you, but what can you do for America?
More kind of plagiarism than creativeness.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. That whole thing of getting out of the way, not being big government, but actually it's all about you, the people. You know, let's work together in service for this thing because, well, no, we've elected you to do that. You're going to do that. And you haven't done that. But yeah, so they're unleashing the potential. They're levelling up, making a better Britain and making Great Britain great again. And so the third chunk before Cameron was Gordon Brown and then Tony Blair. So Gordon Brown in 2007, Tony Blair in 97, and then Margaret Thatcher in 1979.
And I want the best of chances for everyone. That is my mission, that if we can fulfill the potential and realise the talents of all our people, then I am absolutely sure that Britain can be the great global success story of this century.
It will be a Britain renewed, where through education and technology and enterprise, we equip our country for the future in a different and new economic world, and where we build a nation united, with common purpose, shared values, with no one shut out, no one excluded, no one told that they do not matter.
And I would just like to remember some words of St. Francis of Assisi, which I think are really just particularly apt at the moment. Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope.
Which is, God. So there's Gordon Brown talking about that will be the best country in this century, and Blair saying all sorts of stuff. What's interesting is when the Labour leaders do their first speeches, there isn't a background of booing going on. You know, just saying, just an observation. And Thatcher doesn't even bother to make it about the people of Britain, but compares herself to St. Francis of Assisi. You know, how much more glitteringly general can you get than a biblical illusion of splendid things to come? And elsewhere in all of their speeches, they all talk about, oddly, restoring trust in politics and politicians and the economy, as each of them has been ruined by the previous government. But listening to it in reverse, you get to go, oh yeah. And each of them also went on to perform reputation tarnishing actions and had to contend with economic disasters, some of which they actually caused. Cameron, May and Boris's Brexit, if you thought that was bad. Liz Truss did exactly the same thing. So they went in with all of this general, it's all going to be great. Yeah. And they came out of it with small human bad things that went on, you know, partying when the Queen is sitting at her husband's funeral, that kind of stuff, trashing the economy when the Queen is dying. Just all of that. Blair fucking going to war with Iraq. Oh, and Thatcher just kind of going to war in the Falklands to get a third term. Appalling, awful stuff. We're going to unleash the potential. If somebody says unleash the potential, there's Gordon Brown doing it in 2007, Johnson doing it 15 years later. Has it happened? Yeah. Well, yes. If you got out of the bloody way and Stop
leashing the potential. That's what you got to stop doing.
Potential. Stop leashing it. Yeah. We wouldn't complain so much. Yeah. Have shown me prejudice and greed. Have shown me how not to deal with that disease. I look at things in a different light than I did before, and I found the cause. And I think it's you that I'll ignore. I'll leave you to walk your path, wear your shoes, talk like that. I must be a lefty. Pharisees can only get wilder, Now I heard you. Pharisees can only get wilder. D-Ream there, of course, with their glittering generality. Things can only get better. From 1994, featuring Professor Brian Cox playing on the live version. Yeah, he played keyboards on there with their live touring. Different guy in the studio, but he did the live stuff.
So in the Fallacy in the Wild, we like to talk about the Fallacy of the Week from a non-political perspective. And our first example is directly coming to you from QED.
Yay.
Because we went to QED, Mark and I.
Yeah.
It's good. And the very first talk on the main stage was a guy called Dr. Ids, who was talking about medical misinformation on social media, particularly on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the videos that he showed. And this is a guy called Eddie Abu, who basically is anti-processed foods, which, you know, fair enough.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't great, but he is very kind of like almost abusive about them. And like really just
certainly,
very, very anti them. And so he starts off in a supermarket around fresh produce, and then it cuts to him with some more sugary type foods.
When you eat natural foods like this, you become free. You become who you are meant to be. But you see, when you eat ultra-processed shit like this, it numbs your brain. But you don't realize, because it happens from childhood, the sugar, inflammation also affects your brain cells. Guys, free your mind. Stop eating this kind of stuff. Eat real food.
So Dr. Ids was using this as an example of the appeal to nature fallacy. We were pleasantly surprised to see several mentions of various logical fallacies during the talks.
Yeah.
And
we nearly stood up and went, yay, that's us. Yeah, he's talking about us.
So he was saying essentially that a lot of what this guy does is natural food is good, processed food is unnatural, therefore bad. And that's way too simplistic. There are instances where fresh natural food is good, and there are processed foods which are bad for you, but it's not as simple a line as that. And in the same way, what he was talking about as the kind of consequences of eating each of the foods, he said, if you eat fresh food, if you eat all this good food, you will be free.
Be free.
What the fuck is that? What does that mean?
You'll be your best self.
You'll be your best self, And if you eat the sugared stuff, it numbs your brain. Again, what does that mean?
And you don't know that it's numbed your brain because it's numbed your brain. Yeah.
What does a numb brain mean? You don't have any nerve endings in your brain, so your brain is numb. No matter what you eat, your brain is numb.
Yeah.
Also, your brain really needs sugar. Its fuel is glucose.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't eat too much sugary stuff.
At the expense of other things.
Yeah, your brain needs,
yeah.
First of all, your brain needs like a quarter to a half of all of the glucose in your body is used by your brain.
Wow.
Also, fruits and vegetables and the other stuff that he was showing and saying this is good stuff contain sugar.
Are providers of that.
They're naturally occurring sugars, but they're metabolized in the body essentially, fundamentally the same way as glucose is.
Yeah.
Having an apple means that you get other good stuff alongside the sugar. You get fiber and you get certain kind of vitamins and minerals and that kind of stuff that you don't necessarily get with ultra-processed foods, which you should eat in moderation. But trying to say that if you eat sugary stuff, your brain will go numb, but if you eat fresh, good produce, you will be free.
Yeah, then you'll be free.
It's meaningless nonsense. It's a glittering generality. It's
quite good, isn't it?
Yeah,
because being free is a good thing.
Free is good. Numb is bad.
It's free.
Apparently,
Numb is bad.
Numb brains.
Yeah.
People don't like numb brains. So even though everyone has one,
like numb brains
all the time.
What would be the opposite of a numb brain? A free brain or a
painful brain? Probably
prickly
like
brain.
An itchy brain.
Itchy brain
sounds. Yeah, I'd rather have a numb brain. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I enjoy not feeling my brain the whole time.
That's right, yeah. It would. I think it would upset me somewhat if I could. Yeah, feeling it thudding around in there. It'd be a little bit disconcerting. Yeah.
So
Itchy Brain. There's a great single from that third album by
Itchy Brain, yeah.
I've Got a Numb Brain. Yeah.
So our second example comes from the Nick Cage film Lord of War, in which he plays an arms dealer. And in this scene, he is being transported to a place where he is going to deal arms with a group of freedom fighters, as they call themselves, somewhere in Africa.
So where are we going?
RUF, the freedom fighters.
Every faction in Africa calls themselves by these noble names. Liberation this, patriotic that, Democratic Republic of something or other. I guess they can't own up to what they usually are. Federation of worse oppressors and the last bunch of oppressors.
Yeah, so there is a tendency among certain groups to give themselves positive sounding names, like Democratic People's Republic of Korea, for example.
Yeah. Or Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah, things like that. Because it's just the name. It doesn't represent their actual politics. It is a meaningless word with positive connotations. It is as glittering and general as it gets.
It's a bit like the House Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of groups will do that who aren't freedom fighters or terrorists, depending on which side you're on. Like, I can't remember what RFK's group is called, but it's something like the Foundation for Children's Health or whatever, which is an anti-vax group, which actively kills children in advocating against vaccines, who name themselves a thing that sounds like it's pro-good stuff, anti-bad stuff, but what they're doing is actually bad stuff. And so our final example comes from last week tonight. This was an episode where John Oliver was talking about medical devices particularly, and what FDA cleared means. He prefaced this with a clip from Shark Tank where a person who was promoting something to the sharks was saying that their device was FDA cleared. And Mark Cuban and one of the others said, well, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean it's safe, which is accurate because approval, if it's FDA approved, that means that the FDA has decided the benefits that you get from using this medical device are better than the side effects that you might get from using it. So it's overall a good thing. FDA cleared means that it is substantially similar to another device that has been approved.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it doesn't mean they've tested it, doesn't mean they've looked at it. Basically, they've looked at the kind of plans for it and details about it, and they've gone, that looks a bit like the things that we've already said are okay. So you can then claim it's FDA cleared, but that doesn't mean it's safe and it doesn't mean it's effective.
Right.
So that was the preamble to John Oliver saying this.
Saying something is FDA cleared is in no way proof that a device actually works. It's a phrase that can promise way more than it delivers, like when a cereal describes itself as part of a complete breakfast. That doesn't really mean anything. Anything can technically be part of a complete breakfast. If you ingest it alongside oatmeal, yogurt, granola, fruit salad and a glass of orange juice, heroin is part of a complete breakfast.
This was a thing that was used repeatedly in ads, especially throughout the 80s. Pretty much every kind of sugary cereal would say that it was part of a balanced breakfast or part of a nutritionally complete breakfast. They would show it, a bowl of the sugary stuff, alongside a couple of slices of toast and a bowl of oatmeal and a yogurt and a
wheat sheaf.
And a bag of grapes and a glass of orange juice and stuff. And it's part of it, sure. It doesn't make it good. And advertising does this all the time. It will use this kind of stuff. And sometimes advertisers get in trouble for doing it when it turns out actually the thing you're pushing isn't very good. But sometimes it's really vague stuff, like Frosties used to be with Frosted Flakes in the US, Frosties in the UK. Frosties bring out the tiger in you. That was their thing. What does that mean? Meaningless.
And that they were great.
They're great.
They're great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listerine, for example, would help fight bad breath.
Right.
Which doesn't mean it stops you having bad breath.
Yeah, it would just help fight it.
It doesn't even necessarily fight it. It just helps fight it. Like if you do lots of other stuff, like not eating food that would give you bad breath and cleaning your teeth regularly and using using Listerine,
flossing,
then all together, all of the stuff you might do, which is separate from necessarily just using their product, it helps. Products that claim to boost your immune system or help boost your immune system, which is more common. Again, kind of meaningless and ultimately not desirable, because a too strong immune system is how you get lupus and stuff like that. So it's like you want your immune system to be the kind of immune system that
what it does
that attacks bad things and lets in good things.
It is
that is a pro-good thing, anti-bad thing immune system is what you need.
We came up with, or we were talking about that at Q&A, clinically tested.
Yeah, clinically tested.
When
absolutely.
something says it's clinically tested, it's stamped all over it, clinically tested, it may have failed.
Absolutely. It doesn't say pass, does it? But they've tested it.
You take it to the clinic and they test it, clinically tested, like everything should be. Yeah. But it failed miserably. But you leave that bit out. It's like the theatre posters when you always put the reviews on. You only put the good bit on, and you put good bit dot.
Amazing.
And it's just,
dot.
Yeah,
and they've left out that this got on stage.
That's right. It's amazing that anyone greenlit this. Yeah, it's amazing that this person got any work after the previous terrible thing that they did. Yeah.
So when you see a vague advertising slogan with just positive buzzwords that doesn't give any detail or explanation, be skeptical.
So we're gonna play fake news, folks. I love the game. It's a great game. I understand the game as well as anybody.
Yes, it's time for Fake News, the game where I read out 3 Trump quotes, 2 of which are real and 1 I made up, and Mark has to figure out which one is fake news.
So this game is going to be so great. I'm going to bring so much fairness and rule abidance to this game that you're all going to want to play it forever. And when you do, I'll ensure that we'll all win, all of us together, and share in the glory to come. That's my mission. We're going to make this game great again.
Well, that sounds like a worthy and positive mission to be on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, give it 2 years till the next election, and then we'll realise where it all went wrong. Yeah.
So there is a theme this week.
Okay.
And the theme is golf.
Right.
Mostly when Trump was really supposed to be talking about something else, but ended up talking about golf because he's easily distracted by golf. And the reason that the theme is golf is by one of the statements which our listeners may have already heard because it's been out there a bit, but it's one of those times when I had to do it anyway because it's one of those.
Right.
So you may have already heard one of these, you may not, and they're all golf related. So statement number 1, he was talking about NATO and suggesting that instead of funding people's defence, like through NATO, like giving countries money, what they should do is loan them money to defend themselves and then expect them to pay it back after. He said, do it as a form of a loan. I do that with athletes. They can't quite, like a professional golfer, who I think is very good. They don't have any money, but they have a lot of talent. I'll say, here's the deal. I did it with a number of people. Here's the deal. What I want to do, professional golfer, I play golf. I play very nice. Did you see the picture of me, the horrible picture with the stomach out to here? That was... So what I do is, I'm putting up today a picture of me actually, what I actually look like hitting a ball, smashing the fricking ball. And you'll see quite, I wouldn't say slim, but not bad. But the ball does go far. I would say it goes about 9 times further than Biden can hit it. 9 times.
Oh my God, that's one of those infinitely bouncing golf balls. So he started off with, he's talking about NATO, and he's ended up saying, I'm not fat and I can hit it further than him anyway. No. Whoa.
So, statement number 2.
Yeah.
He was talking about foreign policy.
Right.
And he said, when you look at Iran, they had no money. They were a poor, like a really poor country. And they would go begging to the other countries, please do business with us. But I told the other countries, if you do business with Iran, then we won't do business with you. But Biden gave them $16 billion in cash, and now they maybe have nuclear. I think they probably do have it. And that's a much bigger problem for the environment than global warming. I'm really an environmentalist. I have so many golf courses. I've built amazing golf courses all around the world, so I understand about the environment. I have a new one in Scotland, and it's the best, most sustainable. We always do it environmentally.
Right. Because that's the problem with nuclear. It's worse for the environment than global warming. Okay. Because he's an environmentalist. He's got a golf course. Yeah. All that green space. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Think about it. Yes. All those green deserts where nothing can live other than fat golfers. Not fat. I wouldn't say slim, but not bad. Yeah.
And
okay.
Statement number 3, he visited Latrobe, Pennsylvania, where Arnold Palmer is from. Mm-hmm. And so he spent the first 15 minutes or so of his rally talking about Arnold Palmer and doing like anecdotes.
Right.
So he said, I've been here before and I told the story before, not in this kind of detail because, you have these teleprompters. If I would read it off a teleprompter, it wouldn't be so good and it would be a lot shorter. It wouldn't be as good. And I didn't want to do that. I said, when I come here, I'm going to tell them the real story of Arnold. But Arnold Palmer was all man. And I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, That's unbelievable. I had to say it.
Yeah, it's like the man is strong and tough, and only the best is good enough. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we've gone from, yes, if I read off the teleprompter, it wouldn't be so good and it'll be a lot shorter. No, it would, by virtue of the fact that it is a lot shorter. Yeah, if I read it off the teleprompter, it'll be a minor miracle. Okay, so it started off with a loan through athletes, through professional golfers to stomach to Biden, and then Iran to nuclear. And Arnold, okay. Well, see, I think that kind of running out is the opposite of a slippery slope, really. Isn't it? It's like the running down, it's just sort of petering out to, yeah, right. Okay. All right. Well, I think, given the great gag about global warming and environmental nuclear, and the fact he understands about the environment because he's got golf courses, I think number 2 is the one that you made up.
Okay, so the other 2, which are you more convinced by?
I think the Arnold Palmer one. I think number 3.
And number 3?
Yeah.
In which he talked about Arnold Palmer's massive dick.
Yeah.
Is real.
No.
I've been here before.
Oh, my God.
And I've told the story before, not in this kind of detail. Because, you have these teleprompters. If I would read it off a teleprompter, it wouldn't be so good, right? And it would be a lot shorter. It wouldn't be as good. And I didn't want to do that. I said, when I come here, I'm going to tell them the real story of Arnold. But Arnold Palmer was all man. And I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to say it.
He did not, in fact, have to say it.
The whole thing, I'm not going to say it, but I had to say it. Man.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was a thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You also think that number 1 was real, where he went from NATO to
all
golf.
the way down to stomach to golf to Biden. Yeah.
And that number 1 is real.
Do it as a form of a loan. I do that with athletes. They can't quite, like a professional golfer who I think is very good. They don't have any money, but they have a lot of talent. I'll say, here's the deal. I did it with a number of people. Here's the deal, what I want to do. Professional golfer, I play golf. I play very nice. Did you see the picture of me, the horrible picture with the stomach out to here? So what I do is I'm putting up today a picture of me what I actually look like hitting a ball, smashing the frickin' ball. And you'll see I wouldn't say slim, but not bad. But the ball does go far. I would say it goes about 9 times further than Biden can hit it 9 times.
Because that's important when you're comparing presidents, is how far you can hit the ball. You just smash the freaking ball. So he's come from. So wait a minute. Let's do it as a form of our own. Oh yeah, no, that's a good idea. Let's talk about that. I did that with a number of people. So here's the deal. Okay. Oh, okay. What is the deal?
Yeah.
And then he's just gone off to saying, "Oh yeah, that horrible picture."
This is
which
the weave.
Just shows that
it's
the weave. It's also out and out narcissism.
Oh yeah,
if you hit him where it hurts, like you put ugly shit up and you say that he cheats at golf, then he'll just do all that he can to do that. I read a description of him as a somewhat mid-grade businessman that would do anything for applause.
Yeah.
And it's all about the weave is about trying to work out where the next laugh is and where the next.
He doesn't ever weave back.
No,
he only weaves away. That's the thing. If you're going to do it,
it's not a weave. It's more of a petering out.
If you're going off on tangents and then bringing those tangents back and kind of doing it as a nice segment, like an episode of Seinfeld or something like that, where all of the plot points ultimately coalesce into a single thing.
Yes.
No, it's not. He just gets easily distracted.
Yes, that's what it is. It's not a weave. It's just narcissistic.
That's all it is.
Narcissistic distraction. Yeah. Oh, there's a shiny thing. Oh, there's a reflection of me. I'm going to look at that. Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh man.
Which means that you're correct that number 2.
Hey. Alrighty.
Was indeed fake news, although it is inspired by a story about his new golf course in Scotland,
right?
Which Trump International billed as one of the most environmentally friendly and sustainable courses ever built
in the history of time.
Yeah, the Trump organization is saying we've really taken this seriously. They've talked about getting geomorphologists and ecologists and environmental scientists to ensure the courses work seamlessly within the landscape and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know who they got to do it, but other experts in the environment and golf courses have been less enthusiastic about it. Nature agency Nature Scott denotified the site that the course was built on as a site of special scientific interest following the work that was done to create this golf course, which is a kind of an extension of a previous course. And they did that because it was just devastating to the local landscape. The Scottish Wildlife Trust chief executive said building Trump International golf links on a unique dune system has destroyed the dynamic nature that made it special.
Yeah.
Bob Ward, policy director of the Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change and the Environment at London School of Economics, said the idea that building another 18-hole golf course next to the existing one could be environmentally friendly was laughable and complete nonsense. He said the damage is severe and irreparable. There's no way they can credibly make that claim.
Whoa.
Professor Jim Hansen, a geomorphologist at the University of Glasgow, said that biblical quantities of sand had been moved to build the first course, which had destroyed the underlying structure of the soil.
Wow.
So that's the extent to which they care about the environment when building these courses, and even then still claim that this is one of the most environmentally friendly and sustainable golf courses ever.
Wow. Of course, if you ask people who aren't anything to do with environmental sustainability, if you just ask people that agree with you, then they'll go, of course it is. Yeah, when you say it's the most environment, of course it is. Of course it is.
When you don't define environmentally friendly or sustainable.
Yeah.
So we do have a few social contestants.
Oh, lovely.
Andrew on Facebook says, number 1 seems the oddest in that he never really says anything, less than usual anyway, so I'm going with that as the fake.
No, good reasoning. Yeah.
On Patreon, Kaz Tui says, holy crap, Jim, this is having an effect on my cognitive, and I have cognitive. This wrinkled orange nappy stain muttered something like 1, and I've heard bits of 3 dribble out of his Mac face hole, so I'm going with 2 as Jim's fine, concerningly on-point wordcraft.
There you go. Nice.
One-Eyed Nick says, see, I would have gone for number 3 being fake if I hadn't heard it from his own puckered little face anus. Number 1 is him talking about himself, so that's bound to be real, which means I'm going with number 2 being fake. Can't see him ever calling himself an environmentalist. Anders says, might that be Jim trying to seal the deal with repeating here's the deal a number of times to lull Mark into picking number 1 as real? I sure hope so, for I claim it as fake news. Though he probably has said the latest part about how close to Slim he is and how far he can hit a ball.
Yeah. Because that's the most important rubric for your presidential chops.
Becca says, okay, I've heard recordings of 3. There was a kerfuffle over it, and I think I've heard 2, so I'm going with 1 being fake. This is backed up by a coin flip over whether I should go for 1 or 2.
That's all the objective evidence you need.
Yeah. Renee Z says, I think 2 is fake news. It has bits of things he said, but overall I don't think it's a stream of diarrhea from his mouth. At the moment I'm so disgusted with this Nazi and all other Nazi fascists that are going to vote for him, some of whom I know, I can't even reason through my choice for fake news.
Fair enough. Yeah, the red mist descends and you just have to poke at the screen. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
And finally, Stephen Bickle says, Jim is getting too good at this. I'm actually going to go with number 3. It feels similar to what I remember him saying, but I think it's been scrambled up a bit from what he actually said.
Nice. You see, you see, you're doing it by proxy. You're not there. People aren't going for the one that you did, but they are applying your techniques to other ones and then being hoodwinked by that. That way you're spreading yourself out like some kind of sci-fi octopus.
That's why I constantly change which technique I'm using, whether I'm going to completely make it up out of whole cloth or do a kind of stream of consciousness thing at the last minute, or make a joke in it, or use things that he's actually said but make them crazier. Or I wear many hats.
From my many hats of many techniques. From my brief experience with trying to come up with fallacious Boris for this bit for the fake news, it's a hard. This is probably the hardest bit in the whole thing. It's just where you've got to apply that. Okay, what have I done before? Is it gonna work? Is that too convincing? Is it not? Yeah. But hey, saw through it.
You did. So and so did Renee again. I'm going to have to go back through the archives.
All the ones that she's spotted.
I think she's got a ridiculously good record at this.
We might have to. What we should do is have a shout out for somebody to compile all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And,
if anyone feels like
going
back through the patron comments,
and checking what the scoreboard is, to see if Renee is,
she's the best.
Perhaps I should employ her.
I think if you get some kind of
follow her.
some kind of backdoor communication thing to Renee, then I reckon she could help you out with this.
Yeah. It's to keep the score up a bit. Yes.
Yeah. So it's time for the part of the show that this week at least is called "The Election is Not a Logical Fallacy," because I don't know if you know there's a thing coming up next week.
Was there?
Yeah, a little small election. It's not very important, really.
Right.
I mean, it could change the course of
some
history.
Some sort of chairman
Probably
thing,
will.
right? Okay. Yeah.
So we did kind of talk about our predictions for the election back in January, when we predicted the British and US election details, and the British one we had to kind of go from the point at which it hadn't been called yet,
then,
so we had very little to go on. But obviously with the US one, we were going on it almost certainly being Biden versus Trump.
It's all changed vastly.
Yeah, it has changed. And I think that basically I thought that kind of it would be a lower turnout than 2020. I thought enthusiasm had probably waned for both of them generally. And I predicted that Biden would win because just out of desperate hope. So obviously things have changed. We're in a different situation.
Yeah.
And what is endlessly shocking is that this is probably going to be even closer than 2020.
Yeah.
It is looking incredibly tight to the extent that we can put any faith in polls at all. The polls are extremely close. Kamala's going to win the popular vote. I think that's true, and also what the polls predict.
Yeah.
But in terms of all of the individual states, and especially the battleground states, they're all pretty much within or close to the margin of error for all the polls.
Yeah.
So, which makes it very difficult to predict anything.
And it's kind of it's part of it is that you just think, why are the people that are voting for Trump continuing to vote for Trump? Because, they've not got
a complete mystery to me.
They've not even got Q. They haven't got the Q, role playing game to go along with this. There's no external thing telling them that Trump is the God King Messiah, other than their own belief now. And so part of the
and Trump,
I get a grudging acceptance of the Trump PR machine is continued to peddle the idea that actually he is the God King Messiah and he is an ordinary man of the people, and by dint of just appealing to absolutely every populist thing. So whether it's freedom of speech, taking away your arms, keep those pesky women quiet, keep those pesky people who aren't the same colour as us quiet, just appealing to people's misogyny and racism and biases and class war and culture war, all of that. So all of that's really easy to do when you're like Farage or you're like Boris or you're like Trump, because it means you haven't got to do any actual politics. All you've got to do is spot where the bad things are going, and then just appeal to them and just say, oh yeah, I'm as racist and misogynist and awful as you are, and I'm a member of the same class as you are. Farage manages to pull it off constantly, even though he dresses like a landowner. When he's in a pub drinking with his erstwhile mates and being all matey, he dresses like a rich landowner. He's got the kind of the mustard waistcoat and the +4s and the stripy jacket. And a hat. He looks like a toff.
Yeah. He looks like he's on his way to the hunt.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and taking part in the privilege of others. But like Trump, he's very good at identifying somebody further down the food chain that the people who are down the food chain from him can be down on. Which distracts them from identifying that he is completely out of touch and has no interest in their welfare at all, and thereby hoodwinks them into voting for him and not seeing through the fact that what he's doing is just militarizing, monetizing and energizing their prejudices for his own end. I mean, Trump's just like grifted 4 dozen pieces of shit merchandise, all made in China, whilst at the same time being racist against China, blaming China for everything. But he's grifting all this shit to people that will just lap it up. And they don't think that they are actually just giving lots of money to a rich man who's, for his entire career, been given money.
Yeah, I think to the extent that I can understand it at all, or kind of figure out any motivations for it, I think that's, as with most things, a combination of factors, and I've got no real concept of how much these are in different proportions. But I think there's absolutely some of his base who are just the worst fucking awful people. They are horrific, misogynist racists, and that's what they get out of it. There are people who are in an echo chamber, and their life is a bit shit, and they are buying what's being constantly fed to them by Fox and others, or Breitbart, or whoever, whichever they listen to or watch. That it's other people's, mostly immigrants' fault that their life is a bit shit, and only someone like Trump can help. So there's that group who aren't necessarily explicitly racist, wouldn't proudly accept that they're racists, but are inclined to accept that when it's told to them that it's the others, it's the minorities that are causing them all the problems. And then I think there's a large group that are probably just experiencing the sunk cost fallacy, that they've spent so long, so invested in Trump. They believed in him. They thought that he could do great things. They voted for him twice. And so despite all of the shit that has happened, the convictions, the obvious cognitive decline, all of the stuff that he's been openly going through for the last year or two, they're too invested in it. They can't now go, oh, yeah, actually, I've been an idiot for years now. I was so wrong. He's a dick. They can't, their brain won't let them do that, I think.
And I guess the same is, our cognitive bias will kick in, but the same is on the Democrat side. There are people who are lifelong Democrats that will not consider not voting for the Democrat candidate, even if it is a black woman, and, not saying that there are no misogynist racists in the Democrats, but there's been a succession of white men, one black man, and one white woman that they didn't vote for it sufficiently. But the weird bit is the people in the middle who are still undecided.
Like,
how can you be
a
undecided?
Week out, they still don't know who they're going to vote for. What the
How
fuck
much
is
more
that?
research do you need to do?
I don't think it's about the research for these people.
Right.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I
Yeah.
don't think those people, those undecideds, are going to spend the next week kind of on the internet checking
Finishing
out
off
policies.
their research. Yeah.
I honestly don't know what it is, but I don't think it's research.
Yeah.
That is their issue.
It's just it's the kind of people that say, "Oh, it doesn't make any difference when I'm not going to vote for anybody because it never makes a difference." Well, yeah, sure, it doesn't. You're right. If you don't vote, it won't make a difference.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I mean, to be fair,
right.
the polls usually do focus on likely voters. So of those, still, it's like 11%, between 8 and 11% of people just haven't decided yet, which is fucking insane.
I mean, it must also be to do with, well, whatever happens, it won't affect me.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. And that's not true, because your rights will be impinged upon. If you don't vote, you get to go along with the majority vote. And if the majority vote is for the Nazi party that are going to ship out people they don't like, then you may well get caught up in that.
Yeah.
So it's just, a conspiracy of silence. What is it? All it takes is for good men to do nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several people locally where I am who don't vote. They just say, "Oh, no, I'm not going to vote." Some of them are on the ignorant end when they just say, "Oh, it doesn't make any difference because they will prioritise the immigrants over me." I said, well, that's not true. Or it doesn't make, if I vote them in, they will just be all woke and do this kind of stuff. He said, well, that's not true either. Just, it doesn't make any difference who I vote for. All right, if it doesn't make any difference who you vote for the socialists. And then at least we keep the self-interest capitalists out of power for a bit.
I have a little bit of sympathy for people who are in a very one-sided district, which is never ever going to go the other way. And so I can understand why those people feel that it's not worth it, there's no point.
Yeah.
I don't agree, and to the extent that I've ever done that myself of just not bothering because it wouldn't make a difference, I don't do that now. I vote anyway, because actually, first of all, I think that the size of that minority, even when it's a first past the post system, is important. Not just for to the extent that you can possibly send a message to politicians of whether they're doing a good job or not, but also to the supporters of that party, the minority party, thinking, oh, well, maybe it's got a bit bigger since last time. Maybe there's a chance if we keep doing it, in a few years even, maybe there's a chance it will have an MP or a local councillor or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And also, the popular vote thing in the US, even non-existent, God forbid, even if Trump wins, the size of that popular vote going to the Democrats is an important thing.
Oh, yeah.
To nudge people into being more vociferous about getting rid of the Electoral College, for example. To just let people know that actually it's less than half the country that are complete cunts. That is important, even if it's not going to make a difference in your specific district. If you're in a red district.
And also that it will
still important.
Endlessly irk
Trump that's a bonus
as well.
Yeah, that's gravy. So
but I guess that's the thing, isn't it? That if everybody actually votes not for Trump, more people vote not Trump than for Trump, and yet Trump gets in, then there's something fundamentally wrong with the electoral system.
It's happened several times, like 3 times in the last 20 years. It's happened. The loser has won the popular vote. And it's always been Democrats, obviously. I think that the polling in 2020 and to a lesser extent in 2022 was way off. They have focused a bit, the polling organisations, on getting better representation for some of the groups that were underrepresented, and it is probably closer to reality than it has been in the past.
Right.
Again, for certain groups, for like over 65s and people like that, probably it's reasonable. It's going to be less so for like 18 to 25s. The other bit of information, well, I I mean, it's information. I don't think it's evidence in any particular direction, is the fact that early voting has been underway in most states for a while now, and a lot of early votes have been passed, be they mail-in ballots or in-person early voting. And we do have, in a lot of states, data on whether those early votes have been received from people who are registered Republicans or registered Democrats.
Right. Yeah.
And for the most part, like overall, it is currently 42% of those mail-in and early in-person votes that have been cast up to today, I think it is. 42% of those are registered Democrats, 40% of them are registered Republicans, and 18% are either independents or not registered as with a party.
As either, yeah.
That's pretty close. It's
and also
doesn't
quite
tell us a
surprising
lot.
given the negative publicity that Trump's been putting around about mail-in votes.
Well, one thing that has shifted over the last 4 years is the proportion of the early votes that are Republican. And I think part of that is that Trump hasn't been as vocal this time about saying that you shouldn't vote by mail. He was doing that actively in 2020. And this time he's very much not doing that. And at times he has said, oh, you know, mail-in ballots really bad and open to abuse, but you should definitely do it. You should vote by mail, or you should, you know, vote however you can, go early, vote early, vote often, kind of thing. Him and other prominent Republicans are telling people to vote however is convenient for them, and not doing nearly as much shitting on mail-in ballots as a whole and as a way of doing it. So there's definitely been an increase, and that doesn't indicate a shift towards Republicans overall. It could absolutely be in both cases, because there is, while Georgia, for example, absolutely smashed the 2020 record for the first day of early in-person voting.
Yeah.
It was already a record in Georgia, and they kind of tripled it or something this year.
Wow.
Overall, I think in most states, if not all, they're at this stage, which is unsurprising because we're not in the middle of a pandemic, in the ravages of a pandemic. Mail-in received votes and early in-person voting is down on 2020 across the country. And again, it's difficult to say whether that is a reduction in enthusiasm or whether that is just people are going to vote in person on election day or leaving it a bit later to vote in person. There's not that many mail-in ballots that were sent out that haven't been given back yet, essentially. Around 60 million mail-in and early in-person ballots were requested, and already over nearly 43.5 million have been returned. So that's almost 75%. We've still got a week to go.
Yeah. And how do the figures compare with 2016 when there wasn't a pandemic?
There was not nearly as much. It's way higher than 2016. But because a lot of states in 2020 increased accessibility. Some states previously had rules that you had to have an excuse for mail-in voting. For example, you had to have a disability or some other reason that you couldn't specifically get to the polls. And most states removed those kinds of restrictions.
And also those states have got increased restrictions for voting day.
A lot of them have, that's true.
You've got to stand there, the opening hours are restricted, you can't be given water, all that kind of stuff.
And some states have got restrictions on this kind of mail-in and absentee voting. So, like, Georgia has dramatically reduced the number of mail-in drop boxes available in a lot of areas. There's way fewer than there were in 2020. So that's going to have an impact because they're just not as accessible. Whether that will mean that people choose to do it in person, go on election day, or whether that will just suppress the vote is hard to say. Again, basically, what I would say is, to the extent that we can kind of predict anything at this stage, prior to 2016, was absolutely 100% positive Hillary would win. So, who the fuck knows what's happening? All we know is that at the moment, the battleground states, for example, if you look at the party registration of the ballots that have been received, and this doesn't mean this is who they voted for, because there are going to be some Republicans who aren't voting
who are
for
going to
Trump.
go, do you know what? I'm not going to
Yeah.
fucking vote for Trump. Yeah.
It's possible there are going to be some Democrats who think Trump is great. I don't understand that, but it might happen. Who knows? And obviously we don't know what the independents and other people are thinking, and they're a big chunk. So in Nevada, at the moment, of returned ballots, it's 40% Republicans, 35% Democrats, and 25% other. So that's one of the battleground states. Similar numbers in Arizona. Georgia, it's a bit closer, 49% Republicans, 45% Democrats, others only 6%. North Carolina, it's 35 to 33%, and 32% independents or others. So that's a huge section. In Pennsylvania, it's the other way. Democrats 60%, Republicans 30%. And similarly in Michigan, it's Democrats 52%, Republicans 38%. Pennsylvania is 20 electoral college votes, so that's huge. If Kamala wins Pennsylvania,
they hold it.
Then she's got multiple different routes of the other battleground states that she could pick up to take her to 270. But again, we don't know if these are indications of how the vote is going to go, or if it's just that these are the people who've decided to do it early already, and others are waiting till election day. It's fucking up in the air.
I wonder whether part of Trump's silence about not to postal vote is because he saw and tried to dismiss those massive landslides of postal votes that were for Biden. So perhaps in his dim-witted, simplistic view, he's thinking, well, if I keep quiet about votes, I might get a landslide of postal votes.
I think he's been advised that telling people not to vote by mail probably suppressed his base voting to some extent, because not all of them will have wanted to go to the polls. And some of them would have voted by mail. So I think he's probably been given advice on that.
Yeah.
And I think inevitably not doing that will increase the number who are prepared to vote by mail, and that might increase the turnout a bit. In Wisconsin, incidentally, the majority is independents and others. 42% are non-registered to a party.
Registered people,
Yeah, Democrats 35%, Republicans 23%. Wisconsin's a very important swing state as well. So there's a few that at the moment are kind of leaning Republican. There's a few that are leaning pretty strongly Democrat. There's a couple that are split pretty much down the middle. So that doesn't really tell us anything. And a lot of the other states, the non-battleground states, are kind of going the way you would expect them to go in terms of the proportions of those that even collect that data. And there are a lot of states where the mail-in ballots can't begin to be processed until election day. I think one of the things that makes it hard to understand why it's so close, I mean, of the many things, one of the things that makes me feel kind of optimistic about it is I don't think that the early enthusiasm for Kamala has waned much. When I see footage of Kamala's events, Tim Wolf's events, people still seem super into it. And I'm seeing a lot...
Not stranded in the desert waiting to be bussed back to the car park.
I'm seeing a lot of half-empty stadia for Trump and people... Like the other night, he talked to Joe Rogan, last night I think it was, and talked for ages and didn't leave to go to the rally that he was supposed to go to until it was like 2 hours into the rally. And they put up a video of him saying, like, I'm sorry, I'm on my way. And people just left, basically. A lot of the people left. Tonight, as we record this, he is doing a rally in Madison Square Gardens. That is a big venue and looked pretty busy and full. And incidentally... from the bits that I saw of it before we started recording, it looked like a fucking racist shit show because they had awful people doing warm-up stuff, including a horrifically racist comedian. No. That racist comedian in himself prompted people like Bad Bunny and Ricky Martin to endorse Kamala Harris based on his racist jokes. So, you know, and also Beyonce came out and endorsed Harris in Texas the other day. So what I'm saying is I think it feels like, and yes, my media consumption is biased, but I do also pay attention to a lot of what's going on Fox and on the other channels. It really feels like there's a lot more enthusiasm for Harris and that Trump's enthusiasm is waning.
It's a bit like any new kid on the block. There's a lot of media coverage, mainstream media coverage, and then it goes through the usual cycle of, we all really love it. It's great. It's like Beatlemania, and then they'll find something that's wrong with it and shoot them down. So you build up the hero and then claim, oh, well, we built them up and shot them down.
Yeah.
Or is it just that the news cycle's moved on? So
I think the news cycle, absolutely. I think that's it. I think it's not that the media enthusiasm for Harris has definitely shifted. Like, it's not they were all about it when it was exciting, and
Biden's out, she's in,
and they aren't covering her in the same way as they were a month ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But if you look at her rallies and the public appearances she does and all of that kind of stuff, it still seems to be getting really good responses from the people who are there and watching. So, I don't know. The other thing is, when will we know who has won?
Yes.
And initially, we were thinking, or I did, and I'm not sure I mentioned it to you, but I was thinking, what if we did a live stream of election night? And then I realised that 48 to 72 hour live stream is not reasonable.
And also, we wouldn't know anything by the time it's over. Yeah.
The polls don't close until it would be like midnight Tuesday night here. And we won't know anything for a while.
Plus all the postal ballots, some of the states, they can't be counted until election day.
Absolutely.
And then they have to be counted by hand.
Well, there was a ruling in Georgia that said that they were going to have to do all of the election day ballots in each individual voting district. They were going to have to kind of count them twice by hand before they were allowed to certify their numbers and give them to the central counting station. That ruling was overturned by a higher court, so that's now not the case. So that was going to completely fuck Georgia for like a week. There was no way we were going to know what the results were out of Georgia for ages, but now that's been overturned, and so they're saying, Brad Raffensperger and people like that are saying that we might know Georgia within like a day of the election. Probably not election night, but possibly the next day. So we'll see. There'll be states that will take a few days. And the thing is, because it's going to be so tight, probably, they're going to be really, really careful. No one is going to want to make any mistakes at all, especially when those mistakes can then be pointed to as evidence of fraud.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to be really careful. They're going to be double and triple checking stuff. It's going to be no one jumping the gun at things. Even people like Fox News aren't going to want to say, Arizona's looking like it's going for Harris or whatever, like they did in 2020. And so they're not going to rush it. Some of the states, they can't start processing the mail-in ballots. There aren't going to be as many mail-in ballots as there were in 2020, so it's going to be quicker. But there are other processes that will cause problems. There are a good 30, at least, election deniers who are in positions of power in various places who will probably try and make things harder, take longer, so that they can point to difficulties and issues and anomalies.
Yeah.
So I think we probably won't know for sure for kind of probably 3 days after the election at least.
Yeah.
Obviously we'll know a lot of the states, a lot of them will be, like California will be called for Harris before the polls have closed, or like the second the polls close, because there's absolutely no way it could possibly not be blue. But we won't have the numbers for probably a few days.
How long was it last time?
The election was November 3rd, and the final result was called while Giuliani was giving his press conference at Four Seasons Total Landscaping on November 7th.
Yeah.
So it was 4 days.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's likely to be, around that.
I think it might be a little bit quicker than that. Yeah. But they're going to be really cautious. So we are recording our next episode on the 7th, 2 days after the election. We probably won't know the result then, but who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Who knows? Might do.
So we'll give you a bit of an update on how things have gone.
Yeah. And finally, some things we really don't have time to talk about.
With just over a week to go before the election, it's time to really take a look at the character of the candidates. Sure, it's fun to make fun of Trump and his weird makeup, his inability to articulate a single thought, and his pathological need for approval that stems from his emotionally distant father scarring him for life with a crippling sense of inadequacy. But what kind of a man is he? We got a little closer to truly knowing Trump thanks to an article in The Atlantic last week about Vanessa Guillen, a 20-year-old army private who was murdered by a fellow soldier at Fort Hood in 2020. When Trump heard about the incident, he invited Vanessa's family to the White House and sat with them for 25 minutes, expressing his sympathy. At one point, he told them, "If I can help you out with the funeral, I'll help. I'll help you with that. Financially, I'll help you." Which must have been a weight off their minds. So there we are, a small window into the genuine empathy and respect Trump feels for his fellow man. And I'm sure that's where the story ends. Let me just check that Atlantic article. Oh, hang on, there is a bit more. It seems Trump didn't forget that family. He actually followed up several months later, asking his people if they ever got the bill for the funeral, and if so, how much it costs. Yes, he was told it cost $60,000. This, according to the article, made Trump angry, saying, "It doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a fucking Mexican." Mm-hmm. He turned to his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and said, "Don't pay it." And later that day, according to a witness, he just couldn't let it go, saying, "Can you believe it? Fucking people trying to rip me off." The Guillen's family attorney confirmed that they never received any money from Trump.
Nobody ever has.
No.
That's the thing. And yet, he managed to piss every red cent that his father ever gave him up the wall. But nobody's ever said, "Oh yeah, I got paid." The chair of the Conservative House Freedom Caucus, Andy Harris, is very concerned at helping out voters in North Carolina given the devastation wrought by Hurricane Helene in the western part of the state. So concerned that he's all for adopting ideas from Trump activist Ivan Reichling, who gave a keynote speech at a dinner Harris attended. Harris seems to agree with Reichling that they should save everyone the bother of having to go through the storm-torn landscapes of the state in search of a ballot box, so they'll help out by simply stating that the potential difficulties with voting in the hurricane-damaged area will be a basis for the state legislature to declare in advance that Trump should win the state's 16 electoral votes. Look, you've got disenfranchised in 25 counties. You know what that vote probably would have been. Harris is recorded as having said to Reichling in a video Reichling up to X. Apparently, in the keynote speech, Reichling argued that in addition to North Carolina, Republican-controlled legislatures in New Hampshire, Arizona, Nebraska, Georgia and Wisconsin could take similar steps by meeting on Election Day and awarding their electors to Trump. Andy Harris balked a little at going that far. "It looks just like a power play," he said. "In North Carolina, it's legitimate. There are a lot of people which aren't going to get to vote, and it may make the difference in that state," which still looks like a power play to me. And also to Patrick McHenry, retiring Republican congressman for North Carolina, who said it makes no sense whatever to prejudge the election outcome, and that is a misinformed view of what is happening on the ground in North Carolina. Bless his heart. Asked to elaborate on his remarks, Harris issued a statement through his campaign. "As I've repeatedly said, every legal vote should be counted. I would hope everyone can agree that legal American voters whose lives were devastated by the recent storms should not be disenfranchised in the upcoming voting process. Unless, of course, it means that he's looking dodgy for dim Trump, in which case, hey, let's just swing that thing into practice where no one will have to bother to vote for the lifelong presidential dynasty ever again. We'll save you having to come out, folks." Yeah, stop the steal, anyone?
Everyone surely understands that political campaigning can just be a series of photo ops designed to make the candidates appeal to various demographics, hopefully interspersed with some opportunities to actually get out there and talk to the people, kissing hands and shaking babies, so that people can relate to the candidates. Or, if you're Trump, it can be about avoiding interviews with actual journalists, talking to Joe Rogan for so long that you're more than 2 hours late to your own rally, and staging photo ops entirely to troll your opponent. The right has somehow become obsessed with the fact that Kamala doesn't have any paperwork to prove that she worked in a McDonald's more than 40 years ago. Her fast food pay stubs are very much the long-form birth certificate of 2024. And so it was that Trump's people decided to have him work the fry station at a Pennsylvania McDonald's. There are those who might say that the footage of him handing bags of food to drive-through customers who expressed surprise and delight to see the former president at the restaurant was a genuine attempt to connect with working-class voters. J.D. Vance, for example, went on Fox to praise Trump's genuine interest in the employees and their lives and where they came from. That's something you can't stage and you can't fake. And he said, it's why working people have this emotional connection to Donald Trump. I get why Vance is impressed. After all, Trump didn't spend the whole time asking staff members how long they've worked for, then saying, OK, good, and ordering whatever makes sense. But yes, you can stage and fake all that. And one of the ways we know that is that this was all as fake as you can fake it without building your own McDonald's out of cardboard. The branch was closed to the public during the photo op, and all the customers were screened, vetted and positioned in the drive-through line before Trump even got there. None of them ordered any food, they just got whatever makes sense in a bag, while Trump smiled for the cameras. When a reporter asked him if he supported raising the minimum wage, a pretty fucking pertinent question while he's cosplaying as someone earning less than a quarter of the national average salary, he said, well, I think this. These people work hard, they're great, and I just saw something, a process that's beautiful. He then belittled how actually fucking hard they work by claiming, I could do this all day during the 5 literal minutes he scooped fries. The irony, of course, is that Trump couldn't actually get a job at McDonald's because they don't hire convicted felons.
What do you do when your legally defined as not factual pseudo-news show is canned by Fox News, that well-known news-shaped channel, for being party to the bringing on of a $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit by Dominion Voting Systems? If you recall, whilst being the idiot at the centre of that, Tucker Carlson's texts got shared to let us know what he really thought about Trump. We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights, Carlson texts to an undisclosed recipient on 4th January 2021. I truly can't wait, he added. I hate him passionately. Well, not unlike J.D. Vance, Carlson knows the bandwagon/gravy train when he sees one and was a warm-up act for the Tangerine Nightmare in Duluth, Georgia last Wednesday. Seemingly high on the testosterone so absent from the USA, as reported in Carlson's own The End of Men's Stupid Mentory program, he likened the US under Trump as a naughty girl being disciplined by her father. If you allow your hormone-addled 15-year-old daughter to slam the door and give you the finger, you're going to get more of it. There has to be a point at which dad comes home, at which point the crowd erupted into raucous cheers. Okay, hang on. So Trump is the angry father coming to discipline the US. For what? For not voting for him? For not wanting to behave meekly as a prisoner in an overbearing, male-centric, demagogue-worshipping, throwback, unequal rights 1950s society? Carlson continued. Dad comes home and he's pissed. He's not vengeful. He loves his children, disobedient as they may be. He loves them. And when Dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl. And you're going to get a vigorous spanking right now. And no, it's not going to hurt me more than it hurts you. I'm not going to lie. It's going to hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. And you earned this. You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl. And it has to be this way. Clearly, this struck a chord with the stupid-ass, misogynist, toxic masculinity, lust for violence and thirst for revenge crowd, because when Trump came on stage, they screamed, Daddy's home and Daddy Don. Sigmund Freud is spinning in his grave. In their blinkered, woman-hating, spittle-flecked, red mist-descended fantasies, Trump supporters are, of course, blind to the fact that Trump cares nothing about any of them or about causing them pain any more than he is to be believed when he says he's the savior of women, their shield and defender, as he told women attending a rally in Pennsylvania, you will be protected and I will be your protector. The same protector who has stated he is proud to have rolled back 50 years of rights over your own decisions vis-a-vis your bodies. With shields like this, who needs swords?
One of the things I hate most about Tucker Carlson is the frequent windows we get into his sexual fantasies. I don't want to know. I don't, I'm not kink shaming. I just don't want to know that you no longer want to fuck the green M&M because they're not wearing as sexy shoes as they used to, or that you would like Trump to spank you and call you a bad little girl.
Yes.
I just don't. I don't want to know.
Just don't want to know that.
No. I can
Nor
do without.
do I want to know about
that.
his fantasies for tanning your balls.
No.
Yeah. Just had enough of it.
Just keep it to yourself, man.
Keep yourself. Yeah, keep quiet about it. Tell your therapist it's because he hasn't got money. He's not earning any money.
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to be earning money as Trump's warm-up man because he's never going to pay you, Tucker. Not going to happen.
Okay, what the fuck's going on? We've been watching Trump's slow descent into madness, admittedly from a starting point of near total insanity, for more than 6 years now, and I feel I should no longer find anything he does surprising. But then he did a town hall in Oaks, Pennsylvania, and I had to accept that there are layers of what the fuckery I didn't even know existed. If you haven't already seen reports of this, you probably won't believe me when I tell you what happened, and I wouldn't blame you for a second. I've watched the video, and I'm only about 80% sure it's not a prank, that the rest of the internet is specifically playing on me. The whole thing started out perfectly normal. The convicted felon and adjudicated rapist who was a coin flip away from running the free world was being interviewed by puppy-murdering South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, when a couple of audience members fainted from heat exhaustion. He's not a monster, so rather than just ploughing on while his unconscious fans were tended to, he suggested playing some music. But then he decided that listening to music was more fun than answering questions, so he got his people to play the rest of his playlist while he danced on stage for almost 40 fucking minutes. And you've seen Trump dance. He's no John Travolta. Hell, he's no Joey Tribbiani. He just swayed back and forth, occasionally flapping his elbows in slow motion like a manatee caught in treacle, and just stared at the crowd, who I can only assume were trying to figure out which is the best facial expression to ask, what the fuck is happening? I've mentioned before that I'm a fan of musical episodes of TV shows. The Buffy one was amazing. I even enjoyed the Star Trek Strange New Worlds one. But now they've gone too far. This one was worse than the Grey's Anatomy musical episode. I've got a theory, though, one that doesn't involve bunnies or dancing demons. Trump is so convinced that he'll never see any consequences for his many crimes that he doesn't really need to be president again, and he definitely doesn't want to be president again. Complaining about how the Democrats stole the election again will be so much more lucrative and fun, so I think he's pulling shit like this and talking about Arnold Palmer's massive dick because he's desperately trying to find anything that will make people stop voting for him. Joke's on him. The rubes that have followed him for years don't have an off switch.
In 2008, Ben & Jerry's got admonished by the Justice Department for offering a free ice cream to anyone wearing an I voted sticker for violating the federal law barring compensation for voting. Fast forward to 2024, and Batman, but with parents, Elon Musk, has been offering $1 million each day until November 5th to a random person who has signed a petition being circulated by Musk's America PAC. They must, however, be a registered voter. The program works like this. Registered voters in Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, or Wisconsin, yep, all swing states that could go either for Vice President Kamala Harris or for Trump come election day, could sign the petition, which claims to be a petition in favor of free speech and the right to bear arms until Monday, October 21, which happened to be the voter registration deadline in Pennsylvania. Whilst not openly stating that you can only be eligible to win if you vote for Trump, after all, Musk is not stupid. Well, not as stupid as he looks. And boy, does he look. The petition is kinda in the Republican ballpark of their beliefs, Nespa. Is what he's doing illegal? One issue Musk faces, said David Becker, Executive Director of the Nonpartisan Center for Election Innovation and Research, is that what constitutes payment for voting-related activity has been broadly interpreted in the past, hence the Ben & Jerry's ruling. But even if the DOJ decides to go after Musk for this, and there's no guarantee that it will, the issue likely won't be resolved before November 5th, in part, ironically, to avoid any perception on the part of the federal government that the DOJ is meddling in the election. What is it with stupidly rich people wanting to influence communications to guarantee that the incoming regime is friendly to the idea of not taxing the fuck out of them to redistribute the wealth of the country a little more fairly? Bit like Jeff Bezos, owner of the Washington Post, bringing pressure to bear on the editorial team to not back either candidate this year for the first time since before Jimmy Carter. Just pay your taxes, you bastards. You can't take it with you. Though I suspect some tech bro is working on that too.
One of the problems Republicans had with the 2020 election was supposedly that various rules were changed at the last minute to accommodate the fact that people were voting during a pandemic. Well, last-minute changes to the rules might only be a problem when Democrats do it turns out. A panel of Trump-appointed judges on the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals just granted a request from the RNC to invalidate a Mississippi law that allows ballots to be counted up to 5 business days after Election Day, provided they were posted and postmarked by November 5th. Despite this rule being in place for 4 years in Mississippi and mirroring the rules in about 20 other states, Republican lawyers only decided to challenge the rule this year, claiming that it disproportionately harms Republican voters, who are less likely to vote by mail. What impact this will have on next week's election remains to be seen, as the Fifth Circuit did not rule that late-arriving ballots could not be counted, but sent it back down to the Federal District Court to decide how the rule should be implemented. So basically, if you're in Mississippi, maybe send off that postal vote now. Or, if you can, go vote in person. And in 2028, that will probably apply to a hell of a lot more of you when this makes its way to the Supreme Court and those arseholes do whatever they can to suppress mail-in voting until someone has the balls to stack the court.
Meanwhile, in British politics, everyone is getting a bit jumpy at this time of year. No, not because of the impending Halloween celebrations, with people frightened into desperately drawing the curtains and hiding behind the sofa so kids don't come knocking demanding sweets in exchange for having drawn webs on their faces. It's because of the Rachel Reeves first Labour Party budget, where people are being frightened into desperately withdrawing their pension funds and hiding their offshore accounts, so Keir don't come knocking demanding taxes on unworked-for interest payments after their first 10 million, having drawn up webs of shell companies. Many right-wing media owners, who are themselves mostly multi-millionaire domiciled elsewhere kinds of people, well, who else can afford to buy a freaking newspaper, let's face it, are telling the government that lots of wealthy people will leave the country if the budget taxes employers and the rich rather than working people, as Labour has termed it. OK, then go. It's not like you're contributing to the bleeding economy anyway. Meanwhile, no one is quaking behind their doors at the prospect of one of the boogie candidates in the boogie leadership election for the boogie Tory party, Kemi Boogie Badenoch, is bad-mouthing Robert Jenrick and vice versa in order to appear as malevolent as they need to be elected. Kemi's mantra is now that she's a woman. Thatcher was a woman, and she led the party from opposition to government, and therefore she can. Oh, and she's got more integrity than anyone else in the Tory party because she's not been sacked yet. It's a shame that Labour is thinking of introducing a smacking ban, because I suspect there are as many queuing up to do that to Kemi as there are to vote for her. Oh, and the ban seems to have been enacted already for Labour MP Mike Amesbury after CCTV appears to show him punching a man. And it wasn't even James Cleverly for not still being in the running for Tory leader.
So that's all the bad arguments for faulty reasoning we have time for this week. You'll find the show notes at fallacioustrump.com, and if you hear Trump say something stupid and want to ask if it's a fallacy, our contact details are on the contact page.
If you think we've used fallacy ourselves, let us know, and if you've had a good time, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, or simply tell one other person in person about how much they like our podcasts. And you can support the show at patreon.com/ftrump, just like our newest patron, Mike Smith, our strawman level patrons LT, Colleen Laela, Richard Thunder Hopkins, Will M. Scott, Ozzy on Bank, Laura Tomsick, Mark Reike, and Amber Buchanan, who told us when we met her at QED we'd just call her Amber. And this year at QED, I met the listener who recognised her at QED last year because we keep using her full name all the time. And our true Scotsman level patrons, Schmutz, Sharon Robinson, Renee Z, Melissa Sitek, Stephen Biggle, Janet Luetta, Andrew Houck, and our top patron, Kaz Tui. Thank you for joining our patrons, Mike, and thank you so much for your continued patronage, everybody else. It's really very much appreciated.
You can connect with those awesome people as well as us and other listeners in the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/fallacioustrump.
All music is by The Outbursts and was used with permission. So until next time on Fallacious Trump, we'll leave the last word to the Donald.
That's right. Go home to mommy. Bye. Bye.